He has become a recognized pioneer of interactive music, as well as a part-time pundit for Channel 4 News, Radio 1, The Wall Street Journal, and Music Week. Currently, he is Vice President, Music and Business Development for Rdio, a music streaming service from the team behind Skype. It is all about OLLY BARNES. Please welcome him to our stage.
Hi. We're working. So I'm going to talk to you about something that's probably fairly similar, but a little bit different to what Gary was just talking about. So it's really about kind of the most exciting chapter that I think the music industry has ever had. And one of the reasons it's so exciting is I think it probably involves a lot more businesses than most people think it does. So I'm just going to be able to see my own slides here. So what I really want to talk about is it's the promise of music streaming. So as Gary was mentioning before, we're looking at an industry that's seen quite a lot of decline. You've gone from $30 billion of sales down to $15 billion of sales. Whereas looking from our perspective, what we're not doing is trying to fix a hole with this. What we're trying to do is we see a really exciting opportunity. Ours is not about saving the music industry, whereas what we're building with audio and in streaming as a category is really just building on this incredibly exciting opportunity to bring a truly legitimate and far more widespread music marketplace than we've ever seen before. I think one of the issues that we've had as an industry, if you look at music as a whole, is the fact that we haven't really put products out there that consumers are willing to buy, which is something which we are working very hard to change. And so how we're doing this. So the first thing, which I think is the most exciting thing that we do, is it's around access. And so we look at, with audio, we're live in 60 different markets right now. Whereas the area that we look and we feel most excited about is, someone I refer to as the lost customer, someone who's never actually been able to be, even if they wanted to be a legitimate customer of the music industry. And so this is, imagine someone that lives in, say, Sao Paulo, that has a $60 smartphone with $3 of credit in their airtime account and a massive love of music, but they have no credit card. To date, it's been very, very hard for that person to actually do anything but pirate music. I mean, we've probably all done it. I might have done it myself. But it's as an industry, I think we've sort of failed to be able to give this guy a product that he wants and is able to go and buy. And when you look at these marketplaces, so I mentioned Sao Paulo, but that could also be in India or in Africa or in China or even in Europe as well. You think is there money to be spent on music in these countries? But then you have this startling fact, looking at a product which I often look at and feel kind of inspired by its scale, which is a thing called a ringback tone, which I'm not sure if you guys know what a ringback tone is, but it still blows my mind that say I have my mobile phone, I can spend money to put a song on my phone that I never hear. So you hear it when you phone me, but I never hear it myself. And this is an incredibly popular product in developing markets. In fact, in India, a crazy stat is that in the last year, $2 billion of consumer spend has been spent on ringback tones, which we see as an opportunity, not because we don't believe in that as a product category, it's not something that we make, but we do genuinely think that, that the consumers could possibly be served better. If they're spending money, and often in cases spending money which is scarce to them, we want to give them the best experience possible. And what's so exciting with these guys that have been out there, in their millions and hundreds of millions buying these products is we have, again, this crazy growth of smartphones happening right now. So in the next year, we'll have 760 million new smartphone customers. And these are things we want to try and match them one-to-one with music. And it's not a case of selling them a subscription or selling them a download. And we genuinely believe in our product being free to start with and then nurturing people in the ways that suit them best in their environments to become a paid customer. So the access piece is hugely exciting. What we've also understood is we need to work out how to communicate what we do. We can't just have this old-style mentality of we're selling music, you should buy it. So I'm going to a bit of a straw poll. So we've done a lot of marketing with Rdio. I've never really introduced myself, but my name's OLLY BARNES, I work for Rdio. When we first started marketing, we thought the right thing to do was to go and do what we did here. You can only see a little bit of that. So we bought 3 sides of a building in Times Square in New York. And we bought, as far as I can make out, almost every single bus stop in New York as well. We were absolutely everywhere above the line. But we were, if I'm honest, left slightly scratching our heads about quite what the benefit back to us was. It looked great. I think whether people bought audio or they bought iPods, I'm not sure what the kind of the actual response was to the ad. But then, so we tried that was a very expensive path. And then through a new partner of ours called Grupo Bandeirantes in Brazil, we did a 1-minute feature on a comedy show called Panico a couple of weeks ago, where these guys, as far as I can tell, were wearing wigs and strange ties and talking in the middle of a kind of comedy skit show, and they spoke for 1 minute about audio. And because of that 1 minute of them talking about audio, in Brazil, we had 30,000 new registered users that came in because of that 1 minute of time. I think what we realized is if we put ourselves in areas where people already are, like it's not about saying, that we're building an ivory tower and everyone should become a customer of our service. What we're trying to do is we're trying to reach out and work out how we can fit in with what's going on already. So having spoken about the customer side of things, I want to just take a minute to look at that wonderful picture, but I want to talk about discovery, which is more talking about what the promise of music streaming is for bands themselves. If anyone follows the category, you see there is now and again criticism about what artists get paid. However, I've got this wonderful example of this band which 5 weeks ago I'd never heard of. And this is their album cover. They're a band called Oh Brother, who are now actually one of my favorite bands ever. And a friend of mine called Lorena, who works with us, sent me this one song saying, check it out. It's a song that came out on a record that came out more than a year ago. And so in the traditional way of selling music, that record was dead and gone. If that went out on CD, those CDs have been sent back to the factory by now as returns if they weren't sold. If it was on iTunes or Amazon, it didn't get that top 10 pride of place, so most people probably never found out about it. However, I found out about Oh Brother through this one song, and then as it was sent to me in what we've built in the Rdio ecosystem, I was able to see everything else they'd done. And I suddenly did an add up yesterday of how many Oh Brother songs have I listened to in the last 5 weeks, and it's 211. And so with approximate maths, they've earned about $1.50 from me, which obviously they're not getting rich from, but I've introduced it to about 40 friends, about 20 of whom have been like, oh my God, Oh Brother, how did I not know about this band? And so suddenly Oh Brother's earnings from me and my immediate group of friends that like the band like I did is probably about $30. Again, I mean, they're not getting rich of this. But what we're doing is, not from my group of friends anyway, but what we're doing with Rdio is pushing out the point where this platform is so freely available absolutely everywhere, that little discovery moment that I had with Oh Brother can happen tens and tens and tens of thousands, if not millions of times, where one person discovers a song by a band they've never heard of, a song that wasn't being marketed by their record company anymore, was for all intents and purposes dead and gone. And suddenly these bands can spring up and become hugely exciting. And that's I think why we're so excited about this, because once you get a platform that does that to a music fan, you give them that thing I mentioned earlier, which is a product that they're willing to buy. And right now, even looking at generic terms, the average music customer in the US would spend $60 a year on music. Now we've gotten to 120, but it's not, I think the average revenue per user thing isn't what is exciting here. I think what it is we can, through our tech, we can give bands a reason to start bands, which is, the music industry has nothing unless there is a really good reason to start a band. And suddenly the fact that we're not just looking at a way of making each customer slightly more valuable, we're looking at seeing, can we have 50 times more customers than the music industry has ever had before? And that's what we're aiming to do here. Yeah, and we have a long way to go. But we're not going to get there without an industry around us. And so people often look at, what we do, and you think you just exist within the music industry. You have record companies, you have your streaming services, and you have your customer. Whereas with Rdio, what we're trying to do is now see, look way beyond what it is that just we do. Because this is, a fairly common occurrence when people have dealt with the music industry in the past. And so the reason I got into music in the first place, because I wanted to be the guy with the guitar. And I slightly turned out to be the guy in the middle slightly more, but I've realized that I don't want to be someone sitting there saying, halt, you must pay. What we're trying to do is pull everything into one place so we can be a really great partnership target as a sector, streaming for businesses, no matter which business you work in, whether you're a healthcare company in South Africa or whether you're Tesla cars. What we're building with Rdio is this ability for you to come to us and have almost every song on earth, 32, 33 million songs that we have sitting in this database, and we have an API that can talk to any tech that you have. And suddenly, as a business, you can be there and think, wow, I can work with the music industry with a company that actually says, welcome, rather than, what the guys on the slide before said, which I've totally forgotten. But so that's where we are, and we're doing this welcome message we're sending out is one that's being really, really warmly embraced. So that even one example, we just signed a deal with a company in South Africa who are a health insurance company with 1.6 million paying subscribers. And we've done a deal where suddenly all of their subscribers will receive a weekly vitality-themed playlist, where suddenly they'll be able to go out and do exercise regimes based around vitality. And indeed, through having music as part of this company, Discovery Health's voice, what they're doing is actually giving their customers the ability to have music they wouldn't have had before for free, and simultaneously to eventually pay less for their health insurance premiums. Because if you listen to these songs and you follow the vitality playlists and stations we put out there, you're less of a health risk, and therefore your premiums will come down. And another example which we're really proud of is a deal we did with Tesla cars recently, where every Tesla car you can now buy on Earth has Rdio built in as being its stereo system. And so again, no thoughts about what you might want, and we tune that experience very much towards interactive radio stations, because we don't want people to be looking at the dashboard when they're driving too much. But again, us having pulled and done all this heavy lifting as a business to pull in all of these songs and all of these deals is hopefully something where we make the music industry a lot easier to deal with from a partnership perspective. We've done this heavy lifting, we've sort of laid this table, and what we're now saying is we have a wonderful product and we have a wonderful consumer experience, and how can we work with companies that would never have imagined working with music to come and sit at the table and kind of enjoy this wonderful chapter that's taking place. So that's me in 1 minute and 8 seconds. It's more time than I had, but thank you very much for your time.